Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Too loud? No. By the way, someone asked me last night, smoking a cigar, if I was Jewish. I said, no, why? He said, what's the thing on your head? This is to cover my bald spot, you know. Another person asked me if I'm a rabbi. I said, no, why? I said, because you're wearing one of these. What are you going to do today? I'm going to be talking, I'm going to give a sermon, but I'm not a rabbi. I'm going to be talking about the most exciting business in the world, which is sales. How many of you love selling? Everybody. This is great. Just to give you a little bit of my history, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Anyone here from Brooklyn? Anyone heard of Brooklyn? I grew up in Brooklyn. My parents were Holocaust survivors. My father lost his mom, dad, 9 sisters in a concentration camp. My mother was hiding out in some place in Romania. They were on a boat that came to New York. They met in New York separately, but they came to New York and they met. Actually, someone introduced them. So they had a matchmaker. Someone introduced them. And they eventually, after 3 different businesses or 3 different jobs that my father had, they decided to go into business for themselves. And I loved my mother, the way she was operating, because she was a person who was always coming, going, busy, talking, yakking. She was all over the place. When we were kids growing up, we had breakfast. My mother served breakfast, and by the time we came home from school for dinner, which was about 6, 7 o'clock at night, she's been to Pittsburgh and Cleveland and back. I don't know how she did it. Or she was in Hartford, Connecticut and Boston and back. That's the type of person that she was. Still is, alive, and hope that she's doing well. My father was a little bit different. He was more on the quiet side, so he was the administrator of the business. I, growing up as a child, was very bored. We didn't have television, we didn't have video, we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have any of that stuff, so I was pretty bored. I didn't have a record player in our house, and we're talking about in the 50s. And most of you don't even know what I'm talking about. But in the 50s, I grew up in the 50s, and what happened was, I made a decision to get into a business because I was bored in school. So every week I would buy the Jewish press, and I was so bored that not only would I read all the news that's going on, I would also read the want ads in the back. That's how bored I was. And what I noticed was that people were buying and selling refrigerators or used electronics type of appliances, and I decided that maybe I should become a matchmaker. And I will put these people together and I'll make a couple of bucks at the age of 15. I had a few dollars set up, saved up actually. It was from my bar mitzvah money I had saved up. And I bought, in 1969, a recorder call. Recorder call was the first answering machine. But I didn't have a phone. How do I get a phone in the house? So I called up New York Telephone, and I told them that my name is Herman Stern. I lied, and I told them it was my father, and I'm looking to put in a phone line, and that was in my bedroom. And they made a date, and they said they're going to come this and this day. On that particular day, I made sure that I stayed home sick and I wasn't going to go to school, because someone had to let him in the door. Oh, New York Telephone, that's great. My father told me to put it over here. This is where he wants it. And basically, the wires were running right alongside the bed, and I immediately hooked up my recorder call to this wire, got myself a phone number, had a phone number, and I placed an ad in the paper that I'm a matchmaker. I'm buying and selling used equipment. And I had a small little shoebox with 3.5-inch or 3x5 cards. And when I came home from school, the first thing I would do is run up to the room, hide under the bed, and take down the names and numbers of people that called. Because the phone never rang, there was no phone. It was hooked into the recorder call, nobody ever heard anything. My mom was at work, my father was at work, and we came home from school, so we had a babysitter that come in at night, but nobody knew what I was doing. They thought I was doing homework. I hated homework. Well, guess what? From that little business, I became the richest kid in Brooklyn. Now, you talk about the richest kid, we're not talking about at today's scale. We're talking about $150, $200 a month extra spending money. That's what I made. Because spending money, my parents gave me a nickel. Sometimes on a good week or on a good month, they'd give me a dime. They'd give me 10 cents. If you found a quarter in my pocket, chances are that I stole it. Well, a while later, I made this big mistake. My father comes home from work. I had a client, I told him to, in the yard that we had, my father usually would park his car, to drop his refrigerator, stove, whatever he was selling, and someone else was going to come pick it up. That someone else never came to pick it up. So when my father came home, he looked in the yard, he happened to look in the yard, and he says to my mother, "What's all this junk doing in the yard?" So my mother explains to my father, "It's not junk, it's David's business." And he goes off. "What do you mean David's business? David has a business, he shouldn't be having a business. David should be in school, he should be studying." He came up to the room and he yanked the phone line out of my thing and I was out of business. But there's one thing that he couldn't yank out of me. The camaraderie, the talking, the wheeling and dealing with people all the time, that he could never yank out of me. I wound up going back to school. I was in school, but I finished school. I barely passed high school. College was not on the horizon because the community that I lived in, people didn't go to college. They went to work for their parents. I didn't get along with my father so much because my father pulled me to business and he was a tough guy and I was a soft guy, so we had a little bit of a problem. So in his business, he's in the carpet business, so I wasn't go schlepping carpets off, unloading containers of stuff. I wasn't going to do that. That's not me. I thought I should be a businessman. I should be something else and something different. So I decided at the age of 18, I decided to go to work for the bank. I was the first Orthodox Jewish boy working for a savings and loan in Brooklyn, New York, and I learned absolutely nothing. I learned how to cash a check, how to deposit the rest of it into the bank account. That's what I learned how to do. That's all I did. And I always looked out the window and I watched people walking, coming and going, and I said, I'd like to be out there, but how do I get out there? Right now I had a job. My job paid me $86 a week gross. They took off taxes. I had enough money left over for potato knish, a hot dog, and maybe a soda. Diet soda. You know, that goes well with hot dogs and knishes. You drink a diet soda. I did this for 5 years, and I made up my mind that instead of hanging out in a pool room or in a bowling alley, I'm going to make something out of myself. And I became vice president and elected officer of that bank within 5.5 years. I got married, I got divorced. I decided to do a geographical. I moved from Brooklyn, New York to California. I worked for a bank in California until in May of 1978 they changed the laws of banking and they had allowed banks to be open on Saturday. And being a Jewish Sabbath observer, I wasn't able to commit to that, so I had no job. At that time I was earning $25,000 a year. Now what? I can't go back to California. I can't go back to New York. That's not going to happen. I have to stay in California. So someone introduced me to a gentleman in the jewelry business. I decided to become a salesman in the jewelry business. The company was based in New York. The person lived in Las Vegas. His name was Lou Hirsch. May he rest in peace. He had a heart attack and he couldn't continue. So they offered me to pick up the line. And I knew nothing about jewelry, never owned a piece of jewelry. What do I know about jewelry? Well, I took the line. It was $250,000 worth of samples. I come back to LA and I was told, go meet Lou Hirsch in Las Vegas and he'll teach you the business. Well, what did Lou Hirsch teach me? He told me that in the business of selling, you build trust and build relationships. That is the business of selling. Trust I knew about because in the banking business, all banks offered the same interest rate. So you come to my bank, his bank, the other bank, didn't make a difference. They liked you, you were nice to them, you were good to them, they believed you, they trusted you, so therefore they brought you their accounts, the CDs from one bank to another. By the way, the last bank that I worked for, Anchor Savings Bank at the time, we opened up a brand new branch. I brought in $65 million in sales in CDs the first year. And the reason for that is because, I don't know, for those of you who remember, when you open up a bank account, they would give you a blender, they give you a toaster, they give you all this type of gifts to open up an account. And I had all these Jewish little ladies say, oh, I need one for my daughter, she's getting married, my granddaughter's getting married, I need an extra toaster. And I would say, you need an extra toaster, bring me the other account. And they would bring me in tons of money, so $65 million was there. But I learned they trusted me. That's what it is, it's about building trust. Lou Hirsch comes around and says, you build and maintain relationships. I built and maintained relationships, quote, he said, I built and maintained relationships for 15 years in California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Arizona. Don't you screw it up. I'm very good at that. So I decided to learn. But I didn't know anything about the jewelry business. All I knew is what I had in the boxes, what was sitting in there. I had 17 trays of earrings, I have four trays of bangles, 5, 6 different bags of chains. You know, you guys most probably know this much better than I do. Rings and all kinds of different tchotchkes that the people wear in the jewelry. And I had to learn a little bit about it, so I had to learn about the product. So I want to talk about business musts. First of all, goals. What are your goals? When Lou asked me what are my goals, is first I'm going to cover the territory. I'm going to go to all the accounts and I'm going to reintroduce myself. So I did so. My first client was a lady named Mrs. Lewis from Beverly Hills Jewelers. And I called her up and I said, my name is David Stern. I'm replacing Lou Hirsch. She's unfortunately fell ill. I'd like to come to see you. So she asked me a question. David, do you have shrimp earrings? Shrimp earrings? What's a shrimp? I come from a kosher family. I don't know what a shrimp is. I said, I didn't know what to say. So I said, you know, Mrs. Lewis, I have 17 trays of earrings. I'm sure you're going to find something that you think you like. She said, all right, why don't you come in tomorrow at 12 o'clock? I come in the next day. I'm all decked out. I have my suit. I'm schlepping my cases of jewelry. She invites me into her conference room. We talk for a few minutes. We schmooze. And then she says to me, show me your earrings. I took out 17 trays of earrings. I stacked them on the desk. She turns around and says to me, David, I don't see any shrimp earrings. She goes to the one tray, the second tray, and I'm telling you, I'm starting to sweat. And I'm getting soaking wet because she doesn't find any shrimp earrings. Until she gets down to the bottom of the pile and she goes, oh, this is what I'm looking for. Now I found out the first time what shrimp earrings was. And they came in 4 different sizes, so she placed an order. She said, let me see your chains. So I showed her my chains. I need some herringbone chains. Herringbone chains. Here are some chains. She found herringbone chains, and that's what I learned about herringbone chains, and that's what I learned about serpentine chains. Show me your charms. I'm looking for lobster tails. You would think I'm in the fish business here. I showed her lobster tails. I have no idea what a lobster looks like. I have no idea. So I got a real nice order. It was really, really exciting. I come home. My friend was a rabbi. He says to me, so David, now how are you doing the first thing on the job? He says, I'll tell you what, those shrimps and lobsters, they're unbelievable. He said, David, they're not kosher. I said, no, I'm not eating them. I'm just selling them. He says, since when are you selling non-kosher products? I said, no, I'm selling jewelry. What are you talking about? You know, that's when it started for me to understand that product knowledge is extremely important. You know, and talking about the industry that you're in today, we're talking about travel agencies. Travel agents. Home-based travel agents. As I said, I started in the home-based business. I'm still in the home-based business. I'm not in the travel business, but I did travel for 11 years. I represented a company in New York City as a shopping destination. So I understand a little bit about what travel agents go through, what tour operators go through. I understand what the tourist or the person who's buying the traveler, what they're going through, what they're thinking. So product knowledge is extremely important for us to know the different products. Now, in the industry of travel, there are so many different products. There were cruises, river cruises, deep sea cruises. There's all these different types of products that you sell. I'm sure that you're focused on a particular area where you want to do best. Who are your customers? Those years we didn't have computers. I had a list. And the list was, here you go, A, B, C, D, Bakersfield, California, Modesto, Fresno, Sacramento, San Francisco, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. Here are all the customers. So I needed to go through with this, for those of you who remember the little weekly planners, the monthly planners? I used to write everything in there. I used to go here, I have to go there. So it was very, very important that I have a customer base. And I'll explain to you soon why. And at the same time management is important. Time management is very, very important in our business. When do I start my day? When do I finish my day? What do I do in between the times? That's going to help me whether I'm going to be successful or not. When you have good database, and today I personally use a company called ACT. You can look it up online. Some people use Salesforce. And the beauty about this is that you can actually list all the names and addresses and phone numbers and email addresses and websites of all your clients. You know exactly when to talk to them because you can schedule calls, you can schedule meetings, you can schedule follow-up calls, follow-up visits. You can schedule all that. That's what it's there for. That's what's for us to use. Why? Because if we need to follow up, if you saw a client, if I saw a client yesterday, I don't know what the situation was, whatever it was, I might have to call them in a week or two, or a month or two, or a year from now. If I tell the computer when I need to call them, the computer's going to remind me because I have a built-in forgetter. Between my 2 ears, I got a lot of junk. I forget a lot. So this reminds me it's so important to have CRM, customer database, time management, follow-up. The next thing is referrals. How many of you ever sold a trip, if that's the right word, to a client and called them up a day or two or three later, or sent them an email a day or two or three later and asked, how was it? How was your vacation? How was your business trip? How did you like this, that, or the other? It's extremely important. It's a way to help us do that. Communication skills. Communication skills is not just about talking. I'm a talker, yak, 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 yak. I can talk all day, all night. One of the skills of communication is listening. How do we listen to what other people are saying? Because sometimes we listen in our head. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We need to be focused, we need to be consistent, and we need to be persistent. So let me ask you a question. How many of you in the room have goals? Are they written? The hands are dropping. Written goals, they have to be smart, specific, measured, achievable, realistic, and time goals. Because when we wake up in the morning, why am I up in the morning? Because I need to do this, that, the other. Because I have dreams. I have a goal. I want you to think back if you were a child, if you remember, if you have children. Did you ever go out and buy a puzzle? You know, if you buy a puzzle, the kid or the child looks at the picture, whether it has cows, farms, airplanes, boats, whatever, I don't know, whatever it is, they don't really look at how many parts and pieces there are, whether it's 750 or 1,200 pieces. They don't look. They like this. This is what they like, and you buy it. Well, guess what? When you come home, a few hours later, it's all over the living room floor. You got 1,200 pieces of puzzle. But guess what? If you noticed, if you paid attention, the way the child puts the puzzle together is by always having the front cover facing up. They're always looking at the big picture. Why? They take the corner pieces of the puzzle first, the four corners, and then they take the sides, and then they decide based on piece by piece, they measure the piece to the color of the picture, whatever, and they decide to put it into the right place, and before you know it, they have a beautiful, beautiful puzzle. They can laminate and hang it up. Question: what's your puzzle? What is your goal? What are you getting up for in the morning to work for? We need to be in touch with our own puzzle, create our own puzzle, have our goals. If you want to be able to have more clients, if you want to have more activity, we have to have a reason why. Why are we doing this? So let me talk a little bit about the 6 steps of selling. I went to work for a company called Motorola Inc. Some of you heard of the company. Before I went to the company, I had moved back from California to New York, and I found myself in a loss. I didn't know where I belonged, what I was going to do. So I decided to go to this event. Someone introduced me to a mentor. And he said to me that this mentor has classes where he helps people change from within. Well, not for me. I don't think I need to change. I'm great. I'm like the greatest salesman in the world. Maybe. I might have been a great salesman. I might have been able to yak and talk to a lot of people. But how do I change and become a better salesperson? He said to me, you have to do it from within. It's an inside job. When I went to work for Motorola, the first thing I learned, there's something called prospecting, and every single one of us are always prospecting. We're looking for clients. We're looking for new business. First of all, not everybody is going to be your customer. And you don't want everybody to be your customer. There's certain customers you want to stay away from because they'll chisel you till you're bleeding out of your vein. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to make a profit. We're here to build a business. We're here to feed a family. We're here so we can buy the house, the boat, and whatever the goals that we have. So we need to constantly prospect. In the business of selling, 40% of the time is spent on prospecting. If you're not prospecting, you're not doing your business, and sooner or later your customer might leave you because there's another travel agent who might want to get this client away from you. And what we want to do is build trust, and build a relationship with a client so they will hesitate to leave. That's the business of selling. So we always have to prospect. First impression. You have to have a good first impression. You're coming in to meet someone, or you're on the phone, you're smiling to the person, or even though you don't see them, you smile, having a good first impression. And the third step, and this is one of the most important steps, is qualifying. Qualifying a client to find out what their needs are. If it's a corporate client, if it's a business client, if it's a family that's trying to go on vacation, whatever it is, or it's a honeymoon, it's a wedding in Vegas, a chapel, whatever it is that they're trying to do, we need to ask information, ask questions. I will take it a step further. And I've tried this on a couple of people under the name of travel agent. I ask questions. When you travel, you go to Las Vegas, or when you go to Hawaii, or when you go into Israel, or you go into London, what exactly are you looking for? Why are you going? Some go for business, some go for pleasure, some go for sightseeing. So I want to learn more about the person, what they like and what they don't like. They like steak, they like what kind of food they like, what kind of entertainment they like. Why am I asking these questions? Because I learned in the business of selling that if I find out their goals, their desires, their needs, and if I can supply them, I'll be off, I'll be okay. So when we look at goals, we're talking about our goals, that's one thing. But let's not talk about our goals. What are the goals of our clients? What do they want? What are they looking for? What are their dreams? And if I can help them get their dreams, what are the chances that they're going to stick with me? Now, how many of you know what the client's goals are? Nobody. Well, maybe try to find out. Maybe someone likes steak, maybe someone likes shrimp, maybe someone likes this. And you know what I found in the business of tourism? Value added. I traveled to 12 countries for 11 years. I went to ITB in Berlin. I've been to World Travel Market for 12 years. I've been to FIT in Argentina, Fitur in Spain. One thing I found, talking to tour operators, what are you looking for? And they told me one thing, we're looking for value added. Why? Because if I bring value added to my client, I am more assured that after their trip, and if I follow up with them, that they're going to recommend and refer others to my services. Or next time they travel, they'll come back to buy more service. The next step is demonstration. How do we demonstrate our knowledge of our products and our services that we have just talked about, that you guys know, and when we ask questions, leading questions, asking questions from them. And by the way, in sales, when you qualify, 75% or 70% of the time, you listen. Because sometimes, unfortunately, salespeople think with their own heads, oh, I'm going to send them here, I'm going to send them there, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. No. No, you're not listening to all the other needs, taking notes of what they're talking about. So now that you're demonstrating what your company does and what kind of products and services that you have and how it can benefit them, you're not really selling. They're buying because you know what their needs are. You know what they're looking for. And if you know what they're looking for, it's by the way, how does this look? How does that sound? Whoa. This sounds great. How much is this? How much is that? When they say, how much is this? You're not selling, they're buying. That's what's important. Influencing. How do you influence the customer that you're the person they should buy from? That your company that you represent or whatever organization is the company that they want to buy from. And I believe that you influence from prospecting. You could step back to the prospecting. Today, prospecting, you can Google any company. You can learn so much about the person that you can actually identify questions that you might want to ask from this particular client. You know, when you get in front of that client's going to say, whoa, this person knows their stuff. This salesperson knows their stuff. So you're influencing all along the way, you're influencing the client. And then you get to closing. I get a lot of people says, you know, I get in front of a lot of people, but I can't close. I doubt if the word is close, or maybe you didn't qualify properly. What do you know about the client that you're going to help them, that their needs are, that all of a sudden, why they're not buying? Yesterday I was talking to one of the ladies in the room, and I asked a question, and she said, well, I have a hard time with my clients because they don't want to pay the fees, the commissions or the fees. Since we don't get commissions today, travel agents don't get commissions so much, it's a fee that you have. So I say, when I qualify a client, I ask them a question. How much time do you spend on the internet trying to find a particular trip? How much time do you spend doing that? An hour, 35 minutes, 45 minutes. How would you benefit by someone doing the work for you? Another question. One of the other questions I asked is, how much is your dollars worth? How much worth? If you're earning $50, $100, $200 an hour, or if you're running a business, why would you want to waste your time with a flight? Buying it on Google or Orbitz or whatever. Wouldn't you want someone to help you doing it for you? But what about the transportation? So now it's about the flight. Then the next minute it's about the car they're going to rent. The next thing is going to bus services, they're going to take them to the hotel. The next thing is the property the hotel that they're going to stay in. They have to do all that stuff on their own. If they do it on their own, how much time are you spending doing it? It takes hours. What's your hour worth? If I could show you a way how to eliminate that and bring you what you would like, would you be interested? What's the person's first question is going to ask? Is how much is the cost? Well, whatever your fee is. If it's 100, 200, 500. But depending on what the trip is, it's worth it. It's worth it. So don't be afraid to ask. There's going to be, I can buy it cheaper. Well, you know what? Cheap happens to be very, very expensive. Very expensive. So, and by the way, I didn't learn this in one day. I tried it. I like to record my stuff so I learn, even today. I've been in sales for 40 years. Even today, I like to record to see what did I do right, what did I do wrong. Let me tell you about some of the possible time wasters that we have. We're independent contractors. We're home-based businesses. Some people work full-time, some people work part-time. How many of you had a problem with a cluttered desk? Okay. What is a cluttered desk? It's one that is overloaded by paper, supplies, and equipment to the point of impacting the ability to be productive. If you don't file your papers properly, if you don't put them into a CRM or you don't put them into a database, some people use Excel, some people, it's very, very difficult to extrapolate information from there. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you have a desk full of papers. And guess what happens? Oh boy, how did I get this high? And then when you are going to go through those papers, there's a good chance that you're going to make a mistake and throw something away that you really needed. The next one, and by the way, these are not in any particular order, is open door policy. An open-door policy in the context refers to giving unlimited and unmonitored access to anyone who wishes to see you. So we're sitting in a room, we're sitting in our office, we're sitting in the living room, and someone comes in, whether it's a child or some mother or husband or wife or this, that, the other, whoever comes in, or some other friend comes in, you're sitting in an office and wants your attention. Instead of saying, excuse me, I'm sorry, I can talk to you at 4 o'clock or some other time, we get involved. Why do we get involved? Because we run away from what we should be doing. Because it's not easy to make a sale. It's not easy to satisfy a customer. It's not easy to focus on what we need to do right now. Desire to be involved with too many people is involvement that extends beyond business interactions to the point of interfering with work. Beyond being friendly, it is excessive socializing. You know, like, oh, let's go out for lunch. You know, let's do all kinds of different things. That it's going to do is just waste a lot of time. Okay? It's not goal-oriented. Every time you waste time, it's not goal-oriented. It's not going to help you achieve those goals. Long lunches are those that extend beyond the normal time for eating. You go out for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. They can be kept within a specific time frame, but they're really not. And I always say, if you're out for more than an hour for lunch with a coworker or a friend or whatever, watch your calories. Chances are that you're most probably going to be eating too much. Daydreaming. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody's living in La La Land. There's a saying, it's okay to build castles in the sky as long as you don't move in. Psychotics move in, psychiatrists collect the rent. Daydreaming is being preoccupied with non-task or non-work related thoughts. It is being easily distracted from at-hand tasks and focusing on past or future events for prolonged periods of time. Because we get carried away very, very quickly because it's easier to do that than to do the prioritized tasks that we have. Procrastination. Anyone know that one? All right? It's the process of delaying action. It is also the inability to begin action. By the way, if you notice, the first 3 letters is PRO. We become a pro at it. We're professional procrastinators, unfortunately. And that does not help us do business. We postpone the unpleasant. It's similar to procrastinating. We'll do it tomorrow, we'll do it later, but it never gets done. Lack of a written plan. How many of you have a written plan of exactly what you need to do, who you have to call, exactly how to grow your business? Congratulations. Congratulations to those you do. Would it make sense that you have a written plan? Goals, objectives, task requirements, and utilization of resources. It may also simply mean written priorities and a written daily plan of action. But we don't pay attention to these things all day long. Well, we need to maybe check it out a little bit. Maybe we need to look inside to see what we're doing or not doing that helps us do our business or helps us not do business. Habits. A habit is a specific thought, behavior, or way of doing something that was acquired by repetition or by reinforcement from self and others. So if I've been doing the same thing the same old way for so many years, it becomes a habit. Not healthy. Resisting change. A lot of people resist change. They want to change, but they resist it. I ask gentlemen sometimes, if you're right-handed or left-handed, if you're right-handed, you put on your jacket with your right hand, and you put in your right hand first. And I say, I want to reverse it, put in your left hand first, they're going to have a hard time. I said, change it, and if it has a reason for it to change, you should change it. So don't resist change. Resisting change is the process of consciously or subconsciously not participating in the change process. Measures of resistance may be active or passive, not doing things the new way, or making excuses for not having tasks accomplished. So I have a question. By the way, there are many, many more time wasters. You're serious about the business, aren't you? You came all the way to Las Vegas to learn more about how you can get better, how you can do your business better. If we go back to some of the things we talked about, having goals, make sure, please, put down a goal for yourself. If it's for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year, for next year, make a goal and be realistic goals. Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy, everybody talks about goals all the time. But not many people write down their goals and follow it. Understand the product by listening and asking questions and qualifying a particular client. It's hard enough to prospect to get to a client. It's difficult enough that once you're there, don't waste your time. Qualify, build a trust, build a relationship with that particular person. Because that particular person is going to want to help you, because we're helping them. Make sure you have time management, follow-up, referrals. Stay focused, be consistent, and be persistent with your business. It's your business. Why are you in the business? I know some of you are part-time. So the limited amount of time that we have in this business, whether it's 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, or 4 hours a day, don't you think we should make the most effort to take care of that time? Don't waste it with some other stuff, with some time wasters. Some of us have people who work for us. We have employees. Make sure that they know and understand what it is that you look for them to do to make your life easier, so you can get better at prospecting. You can get better at being in front of the customer or negotiating with carriers or different types of deals that you need to make. We live on commissions. We live on fees. We don't have jobs. Job stands for just over broke, J-O-B. They pay you enough so you don't quit, and you work hard enough so you don't get fired. That's what a job is. Is that what you want? That's not what you want. You want something bigger and better than that. And in this business of selling, you can have it. You can have it. You can have everything in the world that you want if you decide to put the effort. And I can tell you this, a lot of times, we have to look inside our own self. What do I have to do to change to make sure that I can get better and do it? Because don't procrastinate, because it's only going to hurt us. I said earlier that my father came from Auschwitz. He lost his mom, his dad, and his 9 sisters. He came here with 10 cents in his pocket. He had a couple of dollars someone sent him. He spent it on buying used clothes. He was out in a concentration camp. I and my father did not get along very well for many years. And he was a little too tough, a little harsh, and old time, old fashioned, old school. And I had a goal. And my goal was to one day, how do I get a better relationship with my father? My father wouldn't know a feeling if it bit him in the behind. He was so cold after what he saw. But he came to this country, to this beautiful country, to build a business for himself, to build himself a family. He had every single excuse to be a Bowery bum, to be an alcoholic, drug addict on the street, and not to function. What for? Why should I live? What's the point? But he chose against it. One day my father calls me up and says, David, I need a favor. I said, what's the favor? He says, I'm going to Hanover, Germany for business. I want you to come along. I said, I'll come along with you if you're going to spend a couple of extra days and you're going to show me the things that you went through, the places that you've been. And he agreed. So I saw for the first time an opportunity to get in touch with my father. We went to Hanover, we did the business, whatever he was doing. I spent some time with him, and then we decided to go to Munich. We went to Dachau. We went to Kaufering, some other place where he was working in a camp, in a prison camp, digging this big, whatever, I don't know, pit. I don't know what they were doing there, and it's still empty. And at the last time that we went to this place called Dachau Allach, in a concentration camp that he was, and there was one bunker where people were living at that was still there from back when. And we walked in there, and he showed me there were not double beds, there were triple beds, and they were made out of wood. It was stinky, smelly, it was old. That's what it was. He says, David, this is what I lived like. This is the first time that I got to hear from my father how he was and what happened to him. First time. And I'm at the age of 30 or something. And my father says, why don't you step out? I want to pray the afternoon prayers. I want to pray in this room. I said, okay. So I stood outside and I looked through the window and I watched him and I watched him and I watched him. Usually it takes 15 minutes. He's there for 25 minutes. So what the heck is he? What's taking so long? I couldn't take it. I was nervous. I was scared. Why? Because there was a lot of empty space. There were barbed wires all over the place. There were gates all over the place. It's 10 minutes to 5. They're going to close this thing. I don't want to get stuck here. Finally, my father comes out. And I said, Dad, you know it's late. We're going to get locked in here. So my father turns to me and says, David, they didn't keep me then, and they're not going to keep us now. He turned from me to we. Until then, it was him, and now it was us. He guaranteed me that we're going to get out. It's the first time that he showed that he cared for me. My life has totally changed. And when I came back to my mentor said to me, what did you learn over here? That my father needed something that he didn't have all his life, because since at the age of 15, 16, he was in concentration camp, had no parents. So maybe I can take my knowledge, what I learned, and what I'm learning is how to love him and give him the attention that he needs. And it's the same thing with a customer. When you are sitting in front of a customer and you help them get their needs, forget about me, forget about the money that I'm going to make. Let me help that person with a good vacation, a good business plan, or good business travel. If that's what I'm going to do, how well off am I going to be? By the way, that day, from that moment on, the relationship between my father and I had cemented that you would not believe. We became the best friends because I decided it's not about me. I'm going to give to him. The same way I give to my clients and I give to my customers, my father deserves the most that he can have because he has no one else. He has no one else. I used to travel, I told you I used to travel all over the country, all over the world, and I found value added is what people are looking for. And all I can tell you today is people are looking for value added. If you know what kind of food the person likes and they're going to North Carolina or they're going to Louisiana or they're going to London or they're going to France or they're going to whatever country they want to go to, if you find out more because the CVBs will give you all the information that you want. You can look it up online and you can help bring more product, more service. Maybe you won't make a dime on it. You might not make any money, but you're building a relationship, you're bringing value to the client. What are the chances that they're going to want to talk to you when they come back from their trip? If you call them. If you have a reminder to call that person within 3-4 days, or email the person, or send them a questionnaire about your business. But the information is out there. The information is there for you. You know, I worked for corporate America for a long time. And in 1999, I became an independent contractor and I have a home-based business. I go through the same struggles each and every single one of you have been through, going through, are going to go through. I go through all the same stuff. No different. But I learned how to deal with it. I learned how to deal with it. And I think so can you. The last 6-7 years, I just want to close up with this. I wrote a book. And the title of it is called Are You For Real? And the reason I came up with the title is because when I sit and have one-on-ones with clients and I ask them questions with other salespeople and the excuses that they make why things are not happening. And I always ask, are you for real? You got to be joking. This is why you're not doing well? You got to be joking. I know I'm not selling from up here, but I brought the book for you to see tomorrow night. It's going to be in the convention center. The book is $20, and I'm offering you a special. Every single chapter has questions, and the questions are forcing you to look at yourself. Let's not point the finger at anyone else, because I learned one thing early on, that if I point the finger at you and I'm a love to blame, there are 3 little fingers that point right back at me. If I stop blaming, I got 4 fingers pointing back at me. Study the questions, answer them, and my name and number is in there. My email address is there. And I will offer you a complimentary session for at least an hour by phone, if not more. I'm here to help you grow. I'm here to help you build your business. I found out a long time ago that if I'm going to help a lot of people get the things in life that they want, I'm going to have everything in life that I want. I want to thank you for your time to listening. I hope it was fruitful to you. I hope you got something out of it. I'm here. I know there's another speaker coming up in the next 10 minutes. He talks about leadership. He's a friend of mine, Jeff Barnes. He wrote the book, The Wisdom of Walt, and I'll tell you what, I am so jealous because he's got some brain. He's so focused. It's unbelievable, so I hope you stay for his seminar. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.